Dracula begins with the diary that the English lawyer Jonathan Harker writes while traveling from England to Eastern Europe. Harker is traveling to castle of a Transylvanian nobleman known as Count Dracula in order to sell him a property in London. In the first entry of the diary dated May 3, Harker arrives in a northern town in Romania called Vistin and stays in a hotel that Count Dracula has recommended. The next morning, while Harker was preparing to leave, the hostess wife warns him that it is St. George's Day, the day when all the bad things of the world are unleashed. And then he puts a crucifix on his neck. The warning has left him a bit disturbed. Harker takes the carriage. Soon after, a group of peasants arrive at the hostel while Harker boards the carriage. They are uttering incomprehensible words, whose meaning Harker translates with the help of a dictionary, werewolf or vampire. When the carriage departs, everyone makes the sign of the cross, a gesture that, according to another traveler, aims to avoid the evil eye. During his trip, he observed several groups of peasants praying on their knees in various sanctuaries. When he entered the castle and shared with Dracula, several odd behaviors increased the concern of Harker. For example, the next day that Harker noticed a strange behavior in Dracula to see how blood fell from his neck because he had hurt while shaving. Finally, and paralyzed with fear, Harker arrives at night at the castle where Conde welcomes him. After this, looking at the mirror, he noticed that his friend is not reflected, and finally, once alone, Harker has a breakfast and notes that he has never seen his host eat. His suspicion increased, so he decides to continue exploring until he concludes that he is a prisoner in the Conde's castle.
Jonathan asks his host a little bit about the history of Transylvania. Dracula speaks with enthusiasm of his country and the glories of his family. Over the next few days, the Count asks Jonathan for the English custom. In addition, he asks Jonathan to write both his fiancée and his boss to inform them that he would stay another month in Transylvania. Jonathan accepts because he feels committed to the Count. Before leaving for his quarter, Dracula warns Jonathan never to fall asleep but in his bedroom. Jonathan has the crucifix on the bed and decides to continue exploring the castle. He wonders what kind of creature the Count is and fears that he will have no escape. One night, Jonathan breaks the lock of a door and enters the room. Without heeding the Count's warning, he falls asleep. Jonathan sees three beautiful women with red lips and sharp teeth. The women approach him and produce an uncontrollable desire. Dracula appears and orders the three women to leave. When I am done with him, he will be able to kiss him at will, he says. To comfort the women, Dracula offers a bag in which there is a child half suffocated. The women disappear from the room and Jonathan loses consciousness. Jonathan wakes up in his bed, not knowing if what happened last night was a dream or not. Several days later, Dracula asks Jonathan to write three letters to both his fiancée and his boss, and to date them 12 June, 19 June, and 29 June, although it is only on May 19. The Count asks Jonathan to tell them that he has left the castle and that he is on his way home. A group of gypsies arrives at the castle, and Jonathan, waiting for a chance to escape, decides to ask them to take a letter to Mina. Jonathan gives the letter to a gypsy through the bars of the window. Later, Dracula appears with the letter in his hands, and he claims to Jonathan that he has betrayed the Earl's hospitality. Finally, Dracula bars the letter. In June, Jonathan continued to be a prisoner. Another group of gypsies arrives at the castle, and Jonathan sees that they unload from the wagon some long boxes of gold. Another day, Jonathan surprises Dracula as he slides through the castle with a suit that he has mysteriously lost. Dracula loads a package much like the one previously devoured by the three women, and this convinces Jonathan that his host is wearing the disguise to commit terrible deeds. Later, a distraught woman appears at the door of the castle and begins to ask for her son. A pack of wolves appears out of nowhere and devours the woman. Desperate, Jonathan decides to climb a part of the castle wall so he can get to Dracula's bedroom during the day. Once in the bedroom, Jonathan realizes that there are some pieces of gold. Jonathan discovers a staircase that leads to a tunnel. Jonathan decides to venture and discover 50 boxes full of lamp. It opens several of the boxes and discovers that the Count is asleep or dead in one of these. Terrified, Jonathan returns to his room. On June 29, Dracula promised Jonathan that he will be able to go the next day, but Jonathan asks him to let him go immediately. Dracula accepts and opens the door, but Jonathan cannot leave for a pack of wolves. Later, Jonathan listens to the Count saying, "Tonight will be mine. Tomorrow will be yours." Jonathan opens the door of his bedroom and finds the three women. Frightened, go back to his room and pray for his life. The next morning, Jonathan wakes up early and heads back to the Count's room. Dracula sleeps as before, but he looks much younger. Jonathan also realizes that the Count has two threads of blood running through the corners of his mouth. Jonathan takes a shovel with the intent to kill the vampire, but the blood doesn't seem to do anything to him. Jonathan decides to take part of the gold of Dracula and try to escape through the castle wall.
The chapter number 5 consists in some letters that Mina and Lucy wrote. Mina talked about that she had studied a lot in order to satisfy her husband. Lucy wrote about some boyfriends that she had. Specifically, she wrote about a man who was a doctor, and the doctor told her that he couldn't grow her because he was so busy with a patient.